Hera almost collapsed. She was leaving, yet Jack didn't even look at her. Mr. Maxwell hurriedly wiped down the corners of his mouth and said, "I'll drive you." "Thank you." Hera gave Jack a long glance and turned, dragged her 2 big suitcases toward the door. Mr. Maxwell stepped up to help her. After the door closed, Sylvia finished the milk and said, "I gotta go." "You barely ate anything." Jack didn't want her to leave. "Eat more." "I'm good, Jack. Baby, I need to work. I still have a case to solve." Sylvia quickly stood up. Jack paused with disappointment. "Baby, why did you call me by my name?" She had called him baby before. It made him blush, but it sounded so intimate. Sylvia blinked and asked him, "Don't you know why I called you baby?" "Isn't it because I became your baby last night?" Jack said. Sylvia was speechless for a moment. Yes, last night he had become her silly baby. Why was his EQ so low? Suddenly, she felt slightly sorry for Hera. "You're right. You're always right. I'll see you around, baby," Sylvia said to him, quickly walking toward the door. She might not be able to catch up with Hera and give her the last strike if she wasted another minute. After she left, Jack leaned against the doorframe and tittered. Last night, his life changed thoroughly. He told himself that he would certainly take the responsibility for what happened last night and that he would treat Sylvia well. In the parking lot, Mr. Maxwell put Hera's suitcases into the trunk. Hera was standing by the car door in silence. She hadn't recovered from the shock caused by all that had happened. She never thought that so many things could happen in less than 24 hours. It was nothing she had expected. "Miss Hera, we're ready to leave," said Mr. Maxwell. "You know about Mr. Kipling. He hardly says goodbye to anyone." He was trying to let Hera know that Jack wouldn't come to say goodbye to her. Hera had known about that long ago, but she felt that Sylvia was the reason why things had become even worse than before. At that moment, Sylvia suddenly walked out of the elevator, which was not far away. "Miss Hera, you're still here. We've seen each other again. What a coincidence." "Are you leaving already, Miss Bennet?" Hera looked behind Sylvia. Jack wasn't there. "I need to work." Sylvia turned toward Mr. Maxwell and said with a smile, "Mr. Maxwell, get into the car. I want a minute alone with Miss Hera." "Sure," Mr. Maxwell said to Sylvia. The look in his eyes was very weird. He would never believe it was a coincidence. It turned out that he had completely underestimated Miss Bennet's capability. She had come down to the parking lot on purpose. After Mr. Maxwell got into the car, Hera turned to Sylvia and said, "Miss Bennet, judging by how strongly you don't like me, I don't think there's anything for us to talk about." She could barely smile at the moment. "You're wrong. After all, you're fond of my man." Sylvia raised her eyebrows and smiled. Hera's mouth corners twitched slightly. "What are you talking about? Jack and I are—" "Don't tell me that you two are friends." "I don't believe that," Sylvia interrupted her. "You don't even dare to admit that you like him, so all you can do is play some dirty tricks behind his back. To be honest, I despise people like you. Compete with me face to face if you can. Jack is simple. He has no idea how you always played little tricks to make him spend time with you, but I'm not like him." Hera was so angry that her face turned red. No one had ever talked to her like that. She had met some other girls who fancied Jack before, but none of them were like Sylvia. "Stop this nonsense. That's not true. The robot had a problem, so you think I planned that, right?" "I didn't say that." Sylvia took out her handcuffs, fiddling with them, saying, "If I can prove it, I'd have you arrested already. I don't care who you are. For some tricks, you can only play them once. If you ever try them again, you might regret it. Also, since you're a scientist, I think you should focus on your project. Learn from Jack and be serious about your job. You're so young. You don't want to ruin your future." "I'm not threatening you," Sylvia continued with a frown, saying, "I'm just trying to give you some advice. To be honest, I admire people like you. I admit that I'm not as smart as you are, so please cherish your smart brain. I've caught many, many criminals who are smart people. These days, a lot of people use their smart brains to commit crimes, but none of them get away with it." Hera clenched her teeth. Her cheeks burned when she heard what Sylvia said. I hope you know what's the right thing to do. I, Sylvia, am not a weak girl whom you think you can fool. Sylvia finished talking, put the handcuffs back into the pocket of her trousers, turned, and left without looking back. She believed that Hera wouldn't have the courage to come up with another dirty trick to try to win Jack. Hera stood there, frozen. A short while later, Mr. Maxwell showed up behind her and said, Miss Hera, let it go. Come on, let's go home. Mr. Maxwell? Hera raised her head and looked at Mr. Maxwell with red eyes. You know? Mr. Kipling is a simple-minded boy. Unlike him, I clearly know about your feelings for him, Mr. Maxwell said. Mr. Kipling doesn't have the same feelings for you. Nothing would change even if you managed to make Miss Bennet leave him. Besides, Miss Bennet is a tough cookie. You don't want to hurt yourself in the end. Hera sighed with a big smile. Perhaps she was wrong. When facing a girl like Sylvia, she honestly had no chance to win. Sylvia arrived at the police station. Lenny looked at her from head to toe, then whispered to her, You didn't go home last night. You didn't even change your clothes. Did you stay in Professor Kipling's place for the night? Sylvia wasn't really into fashion, but normally she changed her clothes every day. After she got together with Jack, she even put on light makeup sometimes. No, I was at my brother's place last night. Sylvia turned to drink some water, feeling slightly awkward. Oh, said Lenny with disappointment. I thought you slept with Professor Kipling already. Sylvia coughed, swallowed the water in her mouth with an effort, then glared at her and said with a serious face, You married women are nasty. It's nothing, we're all adults. You guys will have sex sooner or later, right? Besides, you don't seem like an inexperienced person at all. Lenny laughed. Sylvia didn't know what to say. It seemed that people had some big misunderstandings about her. I've been so busy. How can I possibly be so experienced about that kind of thing? Sylvia sighed. She was going to consult Lenny about why the penetration failed last night, but now she couldn't ask her. Lenny tittered. Professor Kipling seems innocent enough. I guess you'll be the one initiating the whole thing when that day comes. Sylvia dropped her head, quietly drinking the water. Her mouth corners twitched. In the afternoon, she received a call from Jack. Baby, are you free tonight? I think I need to apologize to your brother in person. Are you sure? Sylvia furrowed her brows. My brother's been pretty upset. He might be really mean to you. He'd hate me even more if I didn't apologize to him, said Jack with a low voice. I got my driver's license this morning. All right. Sylvia wasn't surprised about how soon he had gotten his driver's license. After ending the call, Sylvia called Aaron. Jack wants to apologize to you tonight. Don't be too harsh to him. After all, he didn't mean it to happen. He didn't mean it, so I have to forgive him? Not even the law says that. Aaron laughed coldly. My chest has been aching for the last few days. Who's going to be responsible for my body? What do you want? Sylvia was suffering from a headache. After all, he's my boyfriend. Do you want us to break up? Do you want me to be single forever? Is he so good? Aaron complained. He gave you a crappy robot as a gift. He didn't make that robot. He was a victim too, said Sylvia. His own work is rather reliable. Isn't Apple's watch the best proof? Besides, if he didn't have that capability, would he be invited to an international conference of physics? How many people in our country can be invited to a grand conference like that? Aaron was agitated but didn't know how to argue with his little sister. He had no idea how Jack enchanted Sylvia so much to make her put in a good word for him even after he ruined her kitchen. Did his sister not remember who injured him? Once she married Jack, his sister might not be on his side ever again. His wife was more reliable than she was. Whatever. He hung up angrily. At 6 p.m., Sylvia got into Jack's Mercedes-Benz. It was the first time Sylvia sat in his car. She had to admit that sitting in her boyfriend's car felt amazing. The front seat was so comfortable and exclusively belonged to her. Baby, this is for you. With red cheeks, Jack took a few paper bags from the back seat and handed them to Sylvia. I went to the mall earlier this afternoon. I felt sorry for ripping your clothes last night, so I bought you a few new ones. Sylvia was surprised. She never thought that he'd buy her sleepwear. After last night, he seemed more mature than before. She hurriedly opened the bags, took the clothes out, and found them all a normal style. These are all 100% cotton. Aren't these too prudish? Shouldn't a boy buy his girlfriend sexy clothes like the ones she wore last night? Jack coughed slightly and said, Baby, the ones you wore last night were sexy and deep, but I'm afraid those weren't comfortable enough. These cotton ones are more comfortable. Sylvia felt speechless. She doubted any other boy would care so much about her comfort as he did. You're right, Sylvia nodded, gave a wicked smile and said, But the ones I wore last night were meant to be torn by you. Can you tear open these cotton ones? Once again, Jack felt utterly awkward by her wild language. Baby, last night was an accident. I won't do it again, he said. But you look sexy when you ripped off my clothes. Sylvia laughed. I was so attracted to you. Jack started sweating. He wiped his forehead and changed the topic. Baby, I bought a small gift for your brother because visiting him empty-handed seems inappropriate. Is it in that small box over there? Sylvia raised her brows. She noticed the gift box long ago. What is it? I don't know. Mr. Maxwell told me to give it to him. He said your brother will certainly like it, said Jack. Mr. Maxwell's such an old fox. Do you still trust him? Let me take a look. Sylvia took the gift box over and opened it. She was stunned. In the box was a translucent pink bathrobe, decorated with exquisite cherry blossoms. Wow, my brother might really like this. What is it? Jack was curious. Sylvia hurriedly closed the box and said, You don't need to know. Just give it straight to my brother later. Oh, Jack nodded obediently. His curiosity was instantly gone. 50 minutes later, the car was parked outside Aaron and April's villa. Their dog excitedly ran over, barked, and made a circle around the car. As the car doors closed again, the dog dropped his tail and left with disappointment. Sylvia clicked her tongue and said, I know Jackie isn't here, but how can he be so cold with me? I've been nice to him. What's wrong? Jack didn't understand. Oh, you don't know yet, said Sylvia. He and Jackie are sexual partners. Jack didn't know what to say. April, who was coming out of the house, was stunned to hear what she said. She hadn't seen Sylvia for a while. It turned out that Sylvia's style of talking had grown wilder and wilder. Didn't she have fun playing with other dogs last time when we took her out for a walk? Jack said with confusion. Sylvia nodded and laughed. She's a playgirl. That's why she kissed you last time. I wonder if this dog will be jealous. Baby. Jack felt embarrassed, so he gave her a soft glare. April clicked her tongue silently. He was calling her baby already? Their relationship seemed to have gone to a new level. Where's my brother? Sylvia asked. In the baby's room, playing with Apple. April shrugged helplessly. Sylvia understood that her brother was still upset. As Sylvia and Jack went into the house, Aaron still didn't come out of the baby's room. With no other choice, Sylvia took Jack to the baby's room to see her brother. Apple was lying on the mattress. The little boy struggled hard but still couldn't turn over by himself. Aaron poked his little butt and said, You're not little Apple. You're little Dumbo. You're so big already, but you still can't crawl. Why didn't you inherit any of my wisdom? April glared at him and said, He's barely 6 months old. It would be amazing if he can roll over by himself. How can you make him crawl now? I don't think you were able to crawl when you were a 6-month-old baby. I was certainly able to crawl when I was 6 months old, Aaron argued with her, saying, My grandma said that since I was a little baby, I've been smarter and stronger than 99% of my peers. I don't believe your grandma said that. April gave him a cold smile. Sylvia snorted coldly and said, I'm sure my grandma didn't say that. Aaron's cold eyes landed on Sylvia. All you can do is be mean to your big brother. If I didn't put down your robot that day, you might be lying in the hospital by now. Your apartment might have been gone. Brother, I'm sorry. Jack hurriedly made a step forward and apologized sincerely. This is a small gift as my apology. It's not another high-tech piece of yours, is it? I won't accept it, said Aaron coldly. It's not. It was the first time Jack experienced something like this. After all, he had never offered anyone a gift before. He turned to Sylvia, looking for help. Sylvia took over the box, thrust it into Aaron's arms, and said, He didn't invent this. Take a look at it and then decide if you want it or not. I'll bring it home with me if you don't want it. Aaron knitted his brows, opened the box, and glanced into it. He stared at what was in the box for more than 10 seconds. What is it? April moved to him, curious to see what was inside the box. Aaron immediately shut the box, proudly raised his chin, and said, It's an ordinary gift indeed, but I feel your sincerity. Besides, my little sister really likes you, so I'm going to take it. Sylvia stayed silent. He's as shameless as ever, she thought. Thank you, brother. Jack was happy. Don't worry. About what happened earlier, I won't let it happen again. Aaron nodded, scooped Apple up, stood up, and said to him seriously, Sometimes we can't rely too much on machines. After all, machines are cold and lifeless. They can't give your girl the care she needs. What she'll like more is you cooking for her with your own hands. It doesn't matter if your food tastes good or not. That's a way to express your love. Jack nodded. If that kind of thing ever happened again, I would never let my sister be with you. Aaron continued blandly, saying, But this time I forgive you. Let's get out for dinner. At the dining table, Jack said to Sylvia, Your brother is so magnanimous. I caused him to get injured, but he forgave me after accepting only a small gift from me. Sylvia, you always complained about your brother, but I think you're wrong. Sylvia felt speechless. He was so gullible. Did he know what kind of gift he just gave to Aaron? Any man would like that gift, especially a man like Sylvia's brother. April brought food out of the kitchen and saw Aaron come downstairs after putting the gift in the bedroom. He seemed to be taking the gift quite seriously. She started to get curious about it. What did Jack give you? You seem to be treasuring it so much, she asked Aaron once he came downstairs. Who's treasuring it? Aaron instantly denied it. I'm just being polite. No matter what the gift is, I've already accepted it. I should not put it just randomly somewhere in front of the person who gave it to me, he said in a serious tone. April blinked. If she remembered right, about half an hour ago, Aaron told her he would never say a word to Jack nor accept any apology gift from him. April knew her husband quite well. Jack must have given him a gift that he actually liked. It's not a sex toy, is it? Aaron shambled, stared at her with red cheeks, and said, April, why is your mind so dirty? Are you not satisfied with my sexual ability anymore? Do you want to do it every 3 hours? April gave a start, then hurriedly shook her head and said, No, our current sex life is just perfect. Seriously, a little less might even be better. You can tell me any time if you're unsatisfied. Aaron gave her a complicated glance, then said, Let's go to dinner. April looked at his back and sighed with relief. During dinner, Jack attentively removed the shells of the oysters, then put the meat near Sylvia's mouth and said, Try this, baby. You try it too, Sylvia said. Jack was a little disappointed. He put his mouth near her ear and said, I like the way you called me that this morning. Sylvia coughed, put some food in his mouth, and said, Try this, baby. Puh! Aaron spit out his soup. April also had trouble and had to spend a solid effort swallowing the food in her mouth. They couldn't bear listening to the conversation between Sylvia and her boyfriend. Brother, don't spit out your food while you're eating. Jack handed Aaron a clean piece of tissue. Aaron took it awkwardly and wiped his mouth with it. After a short silence, he said with a deep voice, You two are adults. Why are you calling each other baby? Don't you find that disgusting? Jack blinked and said, No, because she is my baby and I'm hers. After saying that, he dropped his head and continued removing shells for Sylvia. Sylvia glared at Aaron and said, April calls you darling. Don't you find that disgusting? Aaron opened his mouth, but April didn't give him the chance to speak. All right, she said. Many young couples who really love each other call each other baby these days. That's just normal. Don't make it a big deal. Aaron didn't agree with her. After dinner, Sylvia and Jack sat together in the living room, eating fruit and watching TV. April stayed in the dining room, feeding Apple a puree. Aaron sat down beside her and said, We really love each other. Why did you never call me baby? Am I not your baby? April scornfully snorted her head. He said that it was disgusting, but he was jealous of Sylvia and Jack. April raised her head, looked at him, and said, Baby. Aaron put a hand on his forehead and said, Stop it. I feel sick. I want to throw up. April didn't know what to say. He was such a drama queen. A man like me just can't live with that. Aaron sighed. I now know that I'm your baby. You don't need to call me that. April stayed silent. Damn, he wanted her to call him that, didn't he? Just then, Sylvia came over to April. I kind of want to do it with him, so please don't tell my brother about it, said Sylvia seriously. April didn't know what to say. Again, she was shocked. Aaron would probably die of anger if he knew his little sister was thinking about sleeping with Jack. April, you may not understand. Seeing the struggling look on April's face, Sylvia smiled and said, You see, it's like I'm looking at a juicy and delicious flower every single day. It's like a snowdrop from a snowy mountain. I want to touch it so much. Didn't you find my brother super hot before? His body has the perfect shape, doesn't it? Didn't you ever have those kinds of thoughts about him? I don't remember. April shook her head. She did understand Sylvia, though. Jack was such a pure and innocent boy. His eyes were like the eyes of a newborn deer. A wild girl like Sylvia would certainly be tempted by him. Sylvia used another metaphor. It's also like how sometimes my brother makes you so angry that you want to punch him in the face. Do you understand? This time, April stopped short, nodded, and said, Anyway, as a girl, you shouldn't forget about birth control. Besides, you haven't been together for long. I suggest you first enjoy being in a relationship. You can get married next year. It won't be too late. After all, you won't be so free after you get married. Sylvia chuckled. I guess your freedom has been highly limited since you married my brother. There is a good side, though. April gave a bitter smile. Anyway, don't tell my brother about what I said to you tonight, Sylvia said. April nodded. After a short hesitation, she added, Just explore with him. That's a man's instinct. You guys will learn it slowly and naturally. Thank you, teacher. Sylvia was truly grateful. April didn't know what to say. Sylvia and Jack stayed at Aaron's place until 8:30 p.m. On their way back, Sylvia said to Jack, Come to my place for the night. You can go home tomorrow morning. Jack was at a red light. He was going to stop the car, but hearing Sylvia's words, he forgot to relax the accelerator and drove straight through. You went through a red light, Sylvia said to him. Jack gave a start, then hurriedly stepped on the brakes and stopped the car in the middle of the road. The cars that came from the other side were all forced to stop as well. He panicked. Why did you stop right in the middle of the road? You've already gone through the red light. Just move. Sylvia was nearly going crazy. Jack started to sweat. In a flurry, he finally drove the car to the roadside and pulled over. What should I do? I went through a red light on my first day holding a driver's license. Will they revoke my license? His face was pale. No. Worst case scenario, they'll take a few points off your license. Seeing how frustrated the boy was, Sylvia regretted bringing up the conversation while he was driving. Jack dropped his head, feeling upset. A short while later, he said, Sylvia, I don't want what happened last night to happen again. I'm just worried that you might get lost driving home alone. Sylvia shrugged. Never mind. Just forget it if you don't want to spend the night. Jack was stunned. For some reason, he was suddenly so disappointed. Why didn't Sylvia say something more to try to change his mind? Couldn't she tell that he was struggling? Why are you looking at me? Sylvia asked him. No, nothing. With disappointment, Jack restarted the car. A short while later, he parked the car in front of Sylvia's apartment. Sylvia unfastened her seatbelt and said, I've already set up the GPS navigation for you. Just follow it. You'll get home safely. Jack sat in the darkness and stayed silent. Sylvia leaned toward him to kiss him. He hurriedly, tremblingly put his arms around her. Her body was as soft as it was last night. They kissed each other so deeply. When Jack almost lost himself in that kiss, Sylvia pushed him away, gasped, and said, I'm going home, baby. Be careful. Text me when you get home. Baby. Jack fixed his eyes on her. He hated to part with her. Good night. Sylvia picked up her bag, got out of the car, and left. Watching her disappear from his sight, Jack felt extremely perturbed. He sat in the car alone until Mr. Maxwell called him. Mr. Kipling, when will you come back? Are you lost? Do you need me to pick you up? I don't want to go home, said Jack with a low voice. I don't want to. What's wrong? Mr. Maxwell immediately asked him. You're not having another fight with Miss Bennet, are you? No, I want to stay at Sylvia's place for the night. Jack sounded frustrated. Stay there then, said Mr. Maxwell. Jack paused for a few seconds, then had his eyes glow. He ended the call with Mr. Maxwell and called Sylvia right away. Are you home already? Sylvia chuckled. No, Sylvia. I got lost. GPS can't help me find my home. So I came back to your apartment, said Jack, sounding upset. Can I stay at your place tonight? But didn't you say that you don't want what happened last night to happen again? Sylvia laughed. I can sleep in your guest room, Jack said hurriedly. All right, I'll take you in. Do you need me to come downstairs to get you? Sylvia asked. No, I'll go up by myself. Jack hurriedly got out of the car. Sylvia opened the door before he knocked. She just had a shower. Leaning against the door frame, she said to him with a faint smile, Didn't I set up GPS for you? Why were you lost anyway? Where did you get lost? I don't remember. Jack wasn't expecting her to ask that question. As someone who had never told a lie before, he panicked. You were lost, so how did you find my apartment? Sylvia tittered. Jack blinked, scratched the back of his head, and stuttered. It might be the power of love. Sylvia couldn't help but burst into laughter. That was a perfect excuse. Baby? Jack felt utterly embarrassed. All right, come in. Sylvia spared the boy. Jack sighed with relief. At 10 p.m., Jack tossed and turned on the bed and couldn't fall asleep. After last night, he found himself unable to sleep without holding Sylvia in his arms. It was just one night, but he seemed to be addicted already. What could he do? He asked to sleep in the guest room. He struggled for an hour, then couldn't help but get up and knocked on Sylvia's bedroom door. Come in, Sylvia's voice was heard. He opened the door and went in. Sylvia was still up, sitting on the bed, spending time with her tablet. Why aren't you sleeping? She asked him. I can't sleep, Jack murmured. It's so dark in your guest room. I'm scared. Sylvia didn't know what to say. Couldn't he come up with a better excuse? You slept in that room before, didn't you? She tried not to laugh out loud. Why weren't you scared back then? I'm cowardly now. Jack dropped his head so deep that his chin almost touched his chest. Sylvia stepped on the carpet, walked up to him with bare feet, and said to him straightforwardly, I think it would be better if you were honest with me and told me that you wanted to come here because you couldn't sleep without me. Jack blushed after she called him out so directly. He was like a kindergartner who was caught in a lie. He just had to fess up. Sylvia, I was tossing and turning in bed just now. I'm not used to sleeping without you by my side. I want to hug you to sleep. Me too. I've been waiting for you. Sylvia gave him a smile that melted Jack's heart. Bzz, bzz. Sylvia was in the middle of a dream when her phone rang. It was dusk. She turned and covered her ears with a blanket in annoyance. Jack quickly climbed out of bed to take the call, worried it might disturb her. He heard April's hoarse voice on the other end. Sylvia, how could you do this to me? What were you thinking giving your brother a gift like that? I'm being tortured to death over here. What did she give you? Jack asked her in a hushed tone. How come it's you? April had trouble stuttering out the last words. She was in complete shock. She had to give it up to Sylvia. She had only just given her advice yesterday, and she already managed to seduce the guy into bed with her that night. She was remarkable. Sylvia's still sleeping, Jack whispered. I don't want to disturb her. April took a moment as she took in his gentle, sweet voice. She was at a loss for words. Never mind. Goodbye. Goodbye. April put her phone down when suddenly Aaron appeared from behind, freshly showered. He hugged her tightly. Weren't you going to make a fuss? How come you ended the call with Sylvia so quickly? April was holding back a knowing smile. She wanted to tell him about Sylvia and Jack sleeping together. Seeing his smug demeanor at that moment, she was curious to see his reaction when he found out his sister had been sleeping with Jack. He'd go ballistic. Forget it, she said softly and lay down again. Aaron affectionately kissed her cheeks. I knew you liked it too. You just didn't want to admit it. April covered her head with her blanket right away. She decided to give Sylvia and Jack the same thing when they got married. 4 months later. Germany, Berlin. Winnie awoke to the sound of sobbing. She opened her eyes feebly and saw Peril walking toward her with an infant. She's away. Don't move. Jenny is fine. She weighs 3.2 kilograms. Jenny? Winnie was stunned. Yeah, I named her. Peril smiled. Your father wanted to name her Johnny, but I didn't think it would be a good name for a baby girl. Winnie was a little surprised. This was her baby. She had carried her for 9 long months. She never knew how difficult and harrowing it was until she gave birth herself. What's wrong? Why the expression? Peril frowned. You don't like the name your mother picked? Jenny is such a pretty name. It's nice. It's nice. Winnie quickly nodded her head. Her mother was always right. Ma, can I see the baby? Sure. Peril quickly brought Jenny out. Joshua walked over, all excited too. Ma, I want to see my baby niece. Winnie looked at the little boy at the other end of the bed and wanted to laugh. He was a very enthusiastic little uncle. Peril was amused too. Haven't you been looking at her all this time? Not enough, Joshua pouted. Let your sister have a look first. Peril placed the delicate infant in Winnie's arms. It was the first time she had held a baby, and her hands were shaking. When peering into the infant's delicate face, which was the size of her palm, she felt as if she was in a dream. She was a mother now. She never imagined she would be a mother at this age. The baby had rosy cheeks and delicate, exquisite features, but Winnie saw no resemblance to herself. Peril remarked, They say that little girls look like their dad. Thank goodness. The man that you were with that drunken night isn't bad looking. Look at how pretty Jenny is. Am I right? She looked over at Winnie meaningfully. Winnie felt a little awkward. You are my daughter. I know you would never be with an ugly man no matter how drunk you were, Peril said casually. Ben was quite good-looking, too. Ma, I'm not so superficial, Winnie insisted. I think a man's character is far more important than his appearance. As long as you know that, Peril nodded her head. Thank goodness we moved our trip to Germany ahead by a few weeks. I didn't expect you to go into labor at 38 weeks, which is still considered full term. Winnie was warmed and comforted. She was grateful her parents were around when her water broke. She had been all alone in a foreign country. She wasn't sure if she would have made it to the hospital on her own. I don't think anyone saw me giving birth here, right? Winnie asked tentatively. Don't worry. This is a private hospital. There aren't many Americans here. And your dad put in a special request with the hospital director that we should be able to keep things under wraps. After 3 days in the hospital, Winnie returned to where her parents were staying in Germany. Tara took a flight over on the 4th day. After giving the baby her gifts, she looked at Winnie and said, Thank goodness you only put on a little bit of weight on your face. We can easily say that you were fed well while you were doing your apprenticeship. Winnie smiled. Thank you, Tara. Things must have been tough on you recently. You can arrange work for me once I finish my confinement. What about your baby? Asked Tara gently. Winnie looked sad all of a sudden. Her baby was the most important thing in the world to her now, of course. I can't bear to be away from her, but I have to earn money to support her. I want to provide the best care for her, and I don't want to rely on my parents. That's good then. A good goal to strive for, Tara sighed. It's not a bad thing to have a baby this early. Director Woods' movie wrapped up about half a year ago. They're planning to release the movie around Christmas time and are doing their publicity in the next couple of months. The crew has already contacted me a few times. They're generating a lot of buzz. You can use this as an opportunity for a comeback. Director Woods' movie? Winnie was stunned. Her expression was a little awkward. Jeffrey and Ben were involved in Director Woods' movie. Did this mean she would be running into them again? What ill fate did she have with these two men? It would be awkward seeing each other. Ugh, can I skip this? Ben still bothers you? Frowning, Tara asked. Frankly, there's still a lot of rumors about you and Ben. I wasn't keen on you sharing the stage with him again, but there's no choice. When you signed the contract to take on Director Woods' movie, it included your commitment to their publicity efforts. You're a newcomer. It wouldn't look good if you went against the clauses in the contract. Who would ask you to sing their main soundtrack in the future if you did? Winnie sighed. Ben was less bothersome. It was Jeffrey she couldn't bear to see or be around. If she bumped into him now, it would be like adding salt on her fresh wounds. Another thing, Tara said. Director Wood said that the movie had been nominated for an award at the Venice Film Festival, so you'll be going to Venice as well. It's a great opportunity. Many would kill to be in your shoes. I don't know how you got so lucky to have this land in your lap so soon after giving birth. Oh? Winnie was shocked. How come I haven't seen anything about this in the news? Insider information. The reporters haven't heard about it yet. Tara smiled and continued. But I have to say you're one lucky girl. The red carpet at these sorts of events is always highly recognized, and there will be lots of reporters there. I have to give it to Director Woods and Jeffrey. That young man is only 21 years old. Winnie was awash with complicated feelings at the mere mention of his name. She was bitter, yes. She was helpless, too. She pouted and said, I don't think Jeffrey played a big part in being nominated at the film festival. He's not even the co-director. Tara rolled her eyes. Director Woods' team is composed of elites. Do you think he could have wrapped up a film within months and end up getting nominated at such a prestigious event? It just proves he has a team of highly efficient workers who produce quality work. He couldn't have done it on his own. Besides, Jeffrey won numerous awards for his work previously. The public isn't easily fooled. There are a lot of producers waiting to work with him. It's only a matter of time before he gains traction and more recognition. When he sighed, what a remarkable guy. She would have been very happy for his successes if they were still together. Too bad. The two of them hated each other now. Tara patted her on the shoulder. Take your time to recuperate during your confinement. I'll be waiting eagerly for your triumphant return. Winnie tried to hold back her chuckles. Was that how you would describe a triumphant return? Later that night, Winnie managed to get Jenny to sleep. She was sitting on the edge of her bed, watching her baby with concentration. She was like a porcelain doll with flawless skin and beautiful little features. She even had dimples and looked especially sweet whenever she gurgled. Tears welled up in Winnie's eyes at the thought of having to go back to work. Jenny's asleep? Peril tiptoed into the room. Yeah. Winnie quickly lowered her head and wiped away her tears. Peril sighed and sat down beside her and said, You can't bear to be away from Jenny. Winnie was silent. Darling, your father and I have been talking about this for the last few days. How would you feel about walking away from the entertainment industry? Peril lowered her voice. I know you want to earn money, but we're doing all right. We can afford to raise this child and provide good enough conditions. Ma, I have to stay strong. Winnie looked up at her. I've already gotten my university degree. I want to make good use of it. Besides, I have no skills other than singing. It wouldn't be easy to pick up something new. I don't want to live off of you guys either. I've brought too much shame to both of you. I want to be your pride and joy. Carol finally nodded her head after thinking a long while. All right. We'll bring Jenny back to our old place. I'll take care of her. Joshua loves her as well. When she's a little older, I'll bring her to you to stay together. Winnie couldn't say a word. She hugged her mother tightly. It was October, and the air in Rosewood City was still hot and humid. Winnie took a flight back, and Bob picked her up in the car. Sue, welcome back. It's been a long time. Winnie stepped forward and gave him a big hug. Are you still willing to come back as my assistant? She asked. Always, he answered. Melissa was having a coffee when Jeffrey came in, carrying several shopping bags. She walked over to him. What's in the bags? Clothes? Yeah. Jeffrey was changing out of his shoes. I'm flying to Italy for Milan Fashion Week. Well, why don't you just shop in Milan? Melissa asked. Men's fashion's a lot nicer there. You're going to the film festival, aren't you? You should wear the latest designs. The company isn't sponsoring anything? The sponsored clothes were sent to Italy. I need an airport outfit for tomorrow, said Jeffrey casually. Kenneth gave him a look and said, You bought so much just for tomorrow? Is that really necessary? Yes. Jeffrey brought his purchases upstairs. After a while, he asked for Melissa's opinion. What do you think about this suit? It's okay. Her expression was a bit weird now, too. After trying on a dozen outfits or so, he asked again, Which ones do you think look best on me? Melissa was trying to suppress a giggle. It's the first time she'd seen him so preoccupied with his appearance. He'd never been particularly concerned about his style or clothes before. Are you meeting someone important tomorrow? No, he replied. Someone who abandoned you? Jeffrey was tight-lipped. Grimacing, he said, Don't spout nonsense. I just heard there are going to be a lot of reporters at the airport. Go for the army green one, then. Melissa said casually. She couldn't be bothered to expose him. Her son was a grown man. It was normal for him to act this way in front of someone he liked. Jeffrey picked up the army green set and looked at himself in the mirror, nodding approvingly. Yeah, this outfit's banging. He knew he would probably be seeing Winnie again the next day. Although he had no plans of reconciling with her, not ever, he had to let her know he was doing fine without her, and he was even better looking now too. He was going to let her know she'd made a grave mistake, the stupidest decision of her life. As for Ben, he had to outshine him in every way and at every moment. Melissa stared at her son from the side. She noticed his expression turning darker and felt a little intimidated by this. 10 o'clock at the airport. Jeffrey met up with Sean after crossing the checkpoint. The VIP lounge was filled with people from the production team. A bunch of them had already worked hard for 4 months shooting the film. Naturally, they had all gotten a lot closer after spending so much time together. Everyone was thrilled to be going to Venice for 5 days. When Jeffrey sauntered into the lounge, everyone was eager to greet him. The co-director, Terry, said teasingly, "Great outfit. I get it that you want to look good. We don't mind, but give some consideration to the male actors. You're stealing their thunder." "I thought you said to dress formally." Jeffrey looked around the table and asked casually, "Not everyone's here yet, right? Where's Jennifer and Ben?" "They're the A-list celebrities. I'm sure they have a busy schedule," Terry said. "We'll be heading over first. They'll all meet us in Venice tomorrow." Jeffrey scowled. Terry felt a chill run up his spine. He couldn't help but recall the various unpleasant incidents between Jeffrey and Ben during the filming. "Terry, come on. Let's get ready to board." Sean walked over and patted him on the shoulder. Terry turned to his luggage. Sean raised his brows and said, "You're dressed so well. Is this all for Winnie?" Jeffrey turned and looked at him aloofly. "Don't talk nonsense. I look okay in anything. That has nothing to do with Winnie. She and I are through." "That's good." Sean nodded his head. "By the way, she'll be at the hotel tonight. She's currently attending an event." "Why are you telling me this? I'm not in the least bit interested in what she's doing." Jeffrey turned on his heel and huffed off. After a couple steps, he looked back and reminded Sean, "Don't tell me about Winnie anymore." Sean just snickered. "Sure thing." Fine, no more updates. But he knew Jeffrey was still curious about her. 9 o'clock at night, the plane landed at Marco Polo International Airport. Winnie left the airport in a shawl. Many staff members and fans had already gathered because of the International Film Festival, hoping to catch a glimpse of someone famous. Winnie was practically a nobody on the international stage, not a well-known singer. She was waiting for the car to arrive outside the airport. Many batches of celebrities arrived before her. She had to wait half an hour before her ride showed up. When she climbed in the car, Bob remarked, "If we had flown over with the rest of the production crew, we wouldn't have had to wait here. Nobody knows. We might have been hassled if we hadn't followed the team." When he smiled and looked at him, "We only waited for half an hour. Look, even the British star Bizier had to wait with us. She's a lot more famous than I am. It's also a good opportunity to see some superstars in real life. I think it's worth it." "You're the best at consoling yourself," Bob giggled. After they got out of the car, they had to take a 30-minute ferry ride to get to the hotel, a very grand medieval building with a magnificent lobby, overhanging crystal chandeliers, and well-lit corridors. Winnie's room was on the second floor. When she opened the windows, she saw a courtyard that reminded her of a royal mansion. "This hotel is the most splendid place I've ever stayed in," she thought to herself, taking in the fresh air and exquisite beauty around her. "Winnie, the photographer said he wants to take some photos along the corridor and in the courtyard as publicity material," Bob called out to her from behind. "Go, put on that sponsored retro mini dress." Winnie rubbed her forehead. "It's so late. Can't it wait till tomorrow?" "Nope." Bob rejected her proposal immediately. "These are Tara's orders. Check the internet. A lot of celebrities who arrived today have already posted their photos. Some people are here for the red carpet and publicity, not the award ceremony. By tomorrow, most of the fans will already be tired of looking at these photos. Besides, you have to pull your weight for the brand that sponsored your clothes." Winnie was quiet. She quietly put on some makeup and changed into the dress. It wasn't easy getting through a photo shoot. Even though she was already demonstrably pretty, her photographer had higher standards. Especially in the courtyard downstairs, she got some strange looks from passerbys. When she was finally done with the photos in the courtyard, she had to take some more shots in the corridors. She wanted the whole thing to be over as quickly as possible. "Winnie, can you raise your chin a little bit and lean against the wall? Just a little bit. Tassel your... Yeah, like that. Just a little bit." The photographer was giving her directions as always. And Winnie did as she was asked, as always. At this moment, footsteps and the sound of conversation could be heard on the staircase. The man's voice was clear and slow. It sounded alluring and sexy. It was so familiar to her and made her heart pound. Winnie stood outside the room for a while before she finally knocked on the door and walked in. "Hello, Director Woods. It's been a long time," she said. She didn't know anyone else in the room, so she didn't want to call anyone by mistake. Leonard smiled at her politely while talking to someone else. Sean waved his hand at her while checking out her outfit. Because she wasn't going onto the red carpet that day, she was dressed casually in a denim skirt and a red long-sleeve jacket. Her hair was colored ash brown and curled. It wasn't an everyday style, but she could pull it off. Winnie had big eyes, a sharp nose, and well-proportioned lips. After putting on a little weight, her cheeks filled out, giving her a more mature, sexier appearance compared to her demure and innocent look of the past. Although her outfit was simple, her legs were long and fair, and she was altogether elegant and pleasing to the eye while exuding a young woman's charm. Over the years, Sean had seen plenty of female stars in the entertainment industry, but he was still impressed by Winnie's publicity team. He found her even more radiant and beautiful compared to 6 months ago when he last saw her. Nowadays, it was rare to come across such a young, pretty, and talented singer. No wonder her company was dedicating so many resources to pushing her along. He was curious to know if Jeffrey would be frustrated if he saw her again. It was apparent he had gone to some lengths to spruce himself up on this trip, perhaps to impress her should the two of them run into each other. But of course, he'd never admit that in a million years. "You got here too late last night. I was already asleep. Sorry I missed you." Sean laughed with ease. "How were your studies in the States?" "It was fine, thank you," when he felt a little sheepish. "I've been inactive for a while and didn't expect the production crew to invite me along." "You sang the theme song at the end of the movie and in the middle too. You totally deserve to be here," said Sean. "I know you guys have a packed schedule these next few days, but let's grab a bite later and go to the small conference room on level 3 afterward to get familiar with the format tomorrow. We can hit up one of the bars in Venice another day and have a good time. We haven't seen each other in a while, so let's catch up. How does that sound?" "Sounds like a plan," she said, smiling graciously. The truth was, Winnie wasn't big on socializing at all. She would have much preferred to explore the canals and meandering streets of Venice on her own. But since most of the production crew were here, they might think her antisocial or even snobbish if she excused herself from the festivities. Plus, she hadn't been around for most of the shoot, so it was appropriate for her to join the others. "I don't think you're a part of our group chat yet, are you? Let me add you now. Check the group for updates." Sean added her to the group chat. At that moment, Jeffrey walked through the door wearing gray trousers and a black shirt with the first 2 buttons strategically undone, giving him a rakish air. He looked wild and elegant at the same time. In contrast to Winnie's inconspicuous entrance, his entrance drew a crowd immediately from all genders, including Leonard. Winnie was surprised. Jeffrey had a reserved disposition and could be downright unfriendly at times. He didn't have many friends in the past, She was surprised he was so well liked by the production team. Seeing her changed expression, Sean explained, Jeffrey was very impressive during the shoot. He has some quirks, but he won everyone over with his skills and talent. Winnie nodded her head. Just then, another Hollywood actor came in looking for Sean. Let's have breakfast together later, Sean said to Winnie before turning off to talk to this popular leading man. Suddenly, Winnie found herself standing in a corner all by herself. Jeffrey shot her an inconspicuous glance, captivated by a ray of light shining on her face that took his breath away. She was even more beautiful than the view outside the window. If he hadn't known she was pregnant, he would never have guessed she was already a mother. After all, she didn't look at all like someone who had a child. Damn it. Why does she have to look so good after giving birth? She is more alluring now than ever before. He wondered who the man was for her to be so loyal and all. He wouldn't believe her if she said it wasn't Ben. Jeffrey, what are you daydreaming about? Terry asked. Come on, let's get some breakfast. Okay. Jeffrey turned to leave with a bunch of people. Leonard waved at her as a senior and said, Come on, Winnie. Let's go together, shall we? No, thanks. I'm going to pass. I've already eaten. Winnie thought it would only be more awkward if she tagged along, so she decided to beg off and excuse herself from the group. That's too bad. Leonard seemed disappointed. When he heard her voice, Jeffrey looked at her sarcastically and quipped, I distinctly remember Director Woods inviting you to breakfast earlier, and you didn't refuse him. How come you're giving the excuse that you've already eaten now? What's the matter? You don't want to eat with us? Everyone frowned when he said that. Winnie felt as if she had been put on the spot. She had already been shunned. Now she was being scrutinized. No, I'm more than honored to be at the film festival with all my seniors. It's just that Director Woods had to talk to someone before I could decline his invitation. Director Woods turned and looked at them at the mention of his name. He could sense that the atmosphere was getting tense and stared at Jeffrey before saying, She says she's already eaten. What's the big deal? Don't make things difficult for our lovely singer. With a surly expression, Jeffrey retorted, I'm not trying to make things difficult. I'm just saying what came into my mind. Winnie managed to force a smile and say, Listen, you guys go ahead. I have work to do. Well then, remember to come for dinner later. No excuses. Sean laughed before he quietly whispered into Winnie's ear, Don't be too unfriendly here. Winnie shot him a grateful look. Jeffrey stalked off with the rest of the group with his hands in his pockets. When Winnie got back to her room, Bob asked curiously, Why didn't you have breakfast with the rest of the crew? I saw all of them eating downstairs. They looked like they were having a good time with each other. The spread looked so yummy too, with tons of choices. Winnie sighed despondently. I'm a singer. I don't have much to talk about with directors and actors. It would be too awkward to eat with them, so I excused myself. Is it Mr. Jeffrey? Did he single you out? Bob was defensive. He's a guy. Why is he being so petty after breaking up? What a piece of work he is. So crass and tasteless. It's got nothing to do with him. Come on, forget it. Let's go out and eat. We can walk around the canals too, said Winnie. The sun cast a warm morning glow as gondolas floated by in the canal. Winnie ordered a coffee and almond jam brioche at a cafe bathed in sunlight on the canal side. She wasn't used to the Italian breakfast. Winnie was engrossed in her surroundings and sipping her espresso when she suddenly spotted Leonard and Jeffrey walking toward her. It was too late to try to hide now. Leonard caught her eye and greeted her. Winnie, I thought you said you had already eaten. Why are you eating breakfast again? Zachary, who was also with them, looked amused and said, probably because Jeffrey was right. She didn't want to have breakfast with us. Jeffrey turned his back to her and started feeding the pigeons bits of bread. Winnie's face was red hot, and she quickly explained, I saw that the sun was shining and wanted to enjoy it a little bit by the canal. It feels quite nice out here. Suddenly, Jeffrey turned his attention away from the pigeons.
Miss Winnie, you sure have a lot of excuses. You said you had work to do before, but now you have time to sunbathe by the canal.
He was purposely picking on her. Winnie could feel her blood boil, but she was the one who had lied to them in the first place, and now she had no choice but to try to cover her tracks. I do have work to do later. If you don't believe me, Mr. Jeffrey, you can follow me. I don't want you to think I'm a liar.
I don't care if you're lying or not.
Jeffrey propped his hands in his pockets and walked away. Jeffrey and Leonard quickly followed after him. Bob laughed and said, Why do I get the feeling Mr. Jeffrey is giving you a hard time just to get your attention? Don't be silly, Winnie said bitterly. He hates me.
I thought all young girls and guys were like this, Bob giggled.
Winnie shook her head in protest, refusing to acknowledge she was just a young girl. Geez, she was a mother. At night, the production crew gathered in a restaurant close to the hotel. They were dining in the outdoor alfresco area. Winnie was worried people might think poorly of her, so she purposely arrived a little early. She was the first one there. After a little while, she could hear the sound of footsteps on the wooden planks growing closer. When she looked up, a tall and lean man walked over. He was wearing a pair of light-washed denim jeans and a crisp white shirt and had a bit of stubble on his handsome face. Winnie was stunned. It was Ben, but he looked so different. He used to be a clean-shaven, handsome young guy, but now his skin was darker, his hair was shorter, and his gaze was harsher. The two of them locked eyes. Ben looked surprised to see her, and his expression hardened before it softened again.
Winnie, how have you been?
I've been well, Winnie answered. She was a little flustered as she stood up. Bumping into Ben still made her feel extremely confused. No matter how hard she tried to forget what happened that day, she could not do so. She knew Ben must have felt even worse. To help preserve his pride, she had to feign nonchalance. How about you?
Me?
Ben smirked and said,
The same old, I guess.
What's the same old? Winnie asked with a smile. I saw the news. You're about to do a few more blockbuster films, am I right? It sounds as if everything's going well for you.
Only in the eyes of others.
Ben looked into her eyes and said,
No one knows how rotten I am inside. Only you do.
Winnie winced. Ben.
Please, can the two of you stand aside? Don't stand in the middle of the space if you want to chat.
Jeffrey interrupted them abruptly. Ben turned and scowled at him. He reached out for Winnie's arm and tried to pull her aside. Jeffrey squeezed in between them and bumped his hand away as he pulled a chair and sat down beside them. Winnie and Ben stared at each other for a while before Ben broke the silence and said,
Winnie, let's go sit over there. I haven't seen you in a while and have a lot to tell you.
Winnie wasn't close to the crew anyway, so she nodded her head.
Ben, how am I going to toast you if you sit so far away?
Jeffrey asked suddenly. Ben turned and frowned.
Director Jeffrey, I don't think we're close enough to be drinking shoulder to shoulder tonight.
Jeffrey looked up and said,
Perhaps you misunderstood my intention. This festival has generated a lot of buzzes and press attention. There are reporters and paparazzi everywhere. Your scandal with Winnie is highly scrutinized. I don't want you two to create another hot topic that would overshadow talk about our film.
Ben wasn't happy to hear that. Winnie knew Jeffrey was hassling her again, so she said to Ben, It's okay. Let's sit here.
I don't care where you two sit, but if reporters take any pictures of you two sitting together, you'll both suffer the consequences,
said Jeffrey.
I advise you to sit separately.
Ben raised his eyes and smiled.
You're just jealous we can sit together, he said flatly. You can try to sit together, answered Jeffrey, raising his chin. I assure you, you'll be in the headlines tomorrow. Winnie had just come back to work. She wanted people to see her ability, not the scandals. That's the last thing she needed. "No worries," she muttered meekly. "I'll be sitting over there. We're going to stay in Venice for a few days anyway, so we'll have plenty of time to catch up then." "Sure thing," said Ben, suddenly feeling better. Being around Winnie was humbling for Ben. He had desperately wanted to see her again, but was afraid she might be too disgusted with him to agree. Hearing Winnie making an appointment with Ben right in front of him made Jeffrey angry. It was more than his ego could bear. He would not believe that Ben wasn't the father of her child. Thankfully, the others from the crew started to arrive, and not a moment too soon. Whew! The atmosphere was getting tense. Not many people were invited at this time, except for the leading actors and actresses. The others were behind-the-scenes staff. Jennifer was the last to arrive. She was wearing a long black dress and light makeup, her hair falling gracefully over one shoulder. On such a beautiful night, she and Winnie were like two elegant scenery lines. "So, Miss Winnie, we meet again." Jennifer sat next to her and greeted her with a smile. Winnie took note of the ring on her finger and recalled some media postings of her and Richard in a hotel together. "Congratulations," greeted Winnie. Jennifer noticed Winnie looking at the ring on her finger and chuckled. "Sometimes it just happens unexpectedly. You thought he wasn't the right guy, but it turned out you two are a perfect match." Winnie wasn't expecting to hear that from her. She stopped short, then nodded and said, "Mr. Richard looks like a very nice guy. He's Mr. Bennett's good friend. Like attracts like. They're both great guys." "If you say so. Jeffrey is Mr. Bennett's brother-in-law." Jennifer turned up her mouth corners. Winnie paused again. "I said nothing. Oh, try some of this risotto. It's out of this world." Jennifer tasted some and nodded in agreement. Absolutely." Winnie felt a little embarrassed. Jennifer seemed to know about what happened between her and Jeffrey. During the meal, all the male guests had drunk some alcohol. Winnie had a few drinks too. The meal ended at 8, but people wanted the fun to continue and happily agreed when someone suggested playing a game called Werewolves of Miller's Hollow. In the first round, Winnie was a villager. She was killed after she opened her eyes. She spent 20 minutes watching the others continue the game. Then, in the second round, she was killed at the beginning again. Twice in a row. What's up with that? People were giving her a confused look. In the third round, she was finally not a villager again. She was the police. But in the end, Jeffrey made people believe he was the werewolf and he killed her. Winnie angrily downed 2 glasses of beer. Ben noticed she was upset, so he stood up. "Hey, everybody! It's getting late. Some of us are tired. Let's all go back to our rooms. Don't we need to talk about our positions on the red carpet tomorrow?" "That's right! There will be a lot of reporters there tomorrow. Let's get some shut-eye." Jennifer stretched and agreed. Since the 2 of them wanted to leave, the party ended and everyone left. Venice at 9:30 in the evening was bustling with activity. Since a large number of stars had come to Venice, many fans followed them there. The streets were all so crowded. Winnie strolled along the pathway near one of the canals, trying to clear her mind. She had one too many, and although she wasn't drunk, she was feeling lightheaded. Suddenly, seemingly out of nowhere, a Hollywood star rushed behind her, followed by a gaggle of adoring fans who started charging toward that young star in a frenzy. Winnie wasn't prepared for that and tried to move out of the way. In the den, someone accidentally brushed up against her and sent her flying toward the water. "Be careful!" A deep voice was heard, sounding nervous and full of concern. Before Winnie could react, someone pulled her body into his arms, which felt vaguely familiar. The hot, muggy night intensified the man's musky scent and the yeasty aroma of beer on his breath. Her head started spinning. Winnie felt as if her brain was burning. With her cheek against his pecs, she turned her head up and looked up. Under the bright streetlights of Venice, Jeffrey's face looked glamorously gorgeous. The two of them stood there staring at each other, his dark eyes reflecting the colorful lights. All of a sudden, another crowd of crazed fans dashed in their direction. Jeffrey and Winnie quickly turned around and switched places. This time, it was Jeffrey who was falling toward the canal. The whole thing happened so fast. Looking at him, Winnie recalled how he killed her over and over again during the game earlier that night. As anger rose from her heart, she gently pushed him forward without thinking. In the next second, Jeffrey fell into the water with a splash. "Someone fell into the water!" A person on the pathway screamed out loud. The other crew members came running over.
Jeffrey was thrashing about and finally grabbed onto the shore. He popped his head out of the water, glared at Winnie, and yelled, "Winnie, I saved you, but you pushed me into the water." His hair was dripping wet. Winnie came to her senses, realizing what she had done. I didn't mean it," she stammered. She guiltily extended a hand to help pull him out. "You think I believe you?" Jeffrey clenched his teeth. Then he felt her push him on the chest. He angrily held Winnie's hand and dragged her into the water. She panicked. She didn't know how to swim. Jeffrey yanked her hair and pulled her head up. Then he put the other hand around her waist and reached for the shore. "Let's see if you can push me now," he snapped. "You?" Winnie was furious. She was soaking wet and her body was pressed tightly against his. She was wearing a short skirt and her legs had to cling against his. It was cold in the water, but she felt hot. At that very moment, some reporters came out and started taking pictures of the two of them. Winnie wanted to cry, but no tears came out. She was wet. Her hair was messy, and it was so embarrassing. And aside from that, she and Jeffrey were holding each other. It would be shocking news. "Winnie, come up!" Ben reached out his hand to help her up. Winnie reached toward him. Jeffrey unexpectedly whispered in her ear, "Don't forget, you're wearing a short dress. Don't blame me if people saw your underpants." Winnie froze. She wanted to eat him alive at that moment. Ugh! "Hold here. Don't fall." Jeffrey pushed her onto the shore and tore off his shirt and wrapped her legs with it. Winnie was stunned a little and still dizzy. Before she realized what happened, he started pushing her upward. Sean and Ben quickly pulled her out of the water. After that, Jeffrey put both hands on the shore, propped himself up, and nimbly leaped out of the water. His shirt was gone. His upper body was bare. His hair was wet. The water streamed down his perfectly toned body. The masculinity radiated from him, causing the hearts of the people around him to thump and their cheeks to turn red. Winnie glanced at him and felt her heart melt. Then she remembered that he wasn't always so hot. He seemed to have been working out these past 6 months. He wasn't an entirely awful person, though. After all, he wrapped her legs with his shirt before pulling her out of the water to protect her modesty. "Wow!" Jennifer blurted out, her eyes glowing, seeing upon Jeffrey's great body. "Director Jeffrey, you're as hot as some top models. Your future girlfriend is one lucky girl." "But Mr. Richard has a great body too, doesn't he?" Leonard said with a smile. "Not as good as this." Jennifer gestured with her hand. Ben furrowed his brows. He unwrapped Jeffrey's wet and black shirt from Winnie's legs, then quickly started to take off his own shirt. Seeing that, Jeffrey said lazily, "Don't bother. If you take off your shirt, the three of us will become tabloid fodder by tomorrow." "What if she catches a cold?" asked Ben. "All right, stop it. You guys don't even have coats." Sean took off his coat and tossed it to Winnie. "Thank you, Director Woods." Winnie quickly draped the coat over her shoulders. The weather was humid but not super hot. After falling into the water, she even felt a bit chilly. Go back to the hotel. You don't want to catch a cold," said Sean. After what happened, the other crew members had mostly figured out the story among the three of them. Nobody dared to talk about it. The silence was golden. Jeffrey didn't put his wet shirt back on, but returned to the hotel in his wet pants and waterlogged shoes that squished with every step he took. On the way back, his gorgeous face turned sulky. Winnie wasn't a happy camper either. In the lobby, Sean said to them, "You two, go and get changed. We'll meet in the conference room on the 3rd floor. Don't make us wait too long." Sean and the others went straight to the conference room while Winnie and Jeffrey returned to their rooms to freshen up. The two of them were moving in the same direction. Realizing this, Winnie quickened her steps. "Winnie, stop." Jeffrey's frosty voice was heard from behind. "I saved you just now, but why did you push me into the water?" Winnie stopped, turned, and bumped into Jeffrey's chest, who walked toward her in big strides. In pain, she limped and nearly fell. She didn't fall, though, because a strong arm held her waist. Winnie raised her head and saw his sexy Adam's apple. She felt a little annoyed, but before she could say another word, he let her go. Raising his eyebrows, he said, "You bumped into me." "Would I have bumped into you if you hadn't come so close to me?" Winnie snapped. "Don't change the subject," Jeffrey retorted. "Do you know what that place is? It's not a lake. That canal's more than 10 meters deep and full of gunk. If I didn't know how to swim, I might have drowned. You were such an evil woman." Winnie sneered with anger and said, "Don't worry. A mean guy like you won't drown." Jeffrey narrowed his eyes. A fire was raging inside. Winnie was a little scared and a little guilty. So with a dry voice, she said, "I admit I shouldn't have done that. I drank some beer earlier and wasn't thinking straight. You were giving me a hard time tonight, and I was angry. I wasn't trying to kill you. I just wanted revenge. We were close to the water's edge. A lot of people were there. You know how to swim. Nothing would have happened to you, so don't exaggerate." "You say I gave you a hard time tonight?" Jeffrey wiped the water on his face, then he continued, "In the game? I'm sorry then. It was because you look like a bad person now." Winnie grimaced and turned on her heels, leaving Jeffrey behind. By the time Winnie arrived at the conference room, everyone was already seated. Jeffrey, wearing clean pants and a hoodie, was leaning back on the couch with one leg flung out in front of him, lazily staring at the phone in his hands. Hearing her enter, he raised his eyes and said, "Miss Winnie, what took you so long? I fell into the canal too, but got here 5 minutes before you." Winnie wisely kept her mouth shut, refusing to take the bait. She had nothing to say to him. She now realized he was never going to stop giving her a hard time, and he loved nothing more than a spectacle. "Oh, come on. You're a guy and she's a girl." Ben, displeased, spoke for Winnie. "She has longer hair than you and had to spend a few more minutes drying it." "That's true," Jennifer nodded in agreement. "Winnie, sit down, please." Winnie nodded. She and Jeffrey were the last two to arrive. There were only 2 couches in the conference room, and Jeffrey was sitting on one side of one of them. No! She couldn't possibly sit next to him, so she had no choice but to sit in front of him. "You already know the schedule," said Sean. "Quite some red carpets are expecting us this time. The opening and closing ceremonies of the film festival, the screening of our film, the dinner party. Ugh, too many." Winnie's head was aching. She had to see Jeffrey every single time she walked the red carpet. She had no idea how many times he would try to make her life miserable. "For the opening ceremony, not too many people will be on the red carpet," said Terry. "If we're going to walk together, you, Director Wood, should certainly be in the middle. On your side should be Leonard and Jennifer as our leading actor and actress, then Ben and Zachary. We better arrange for the boys and girls to walk together because it'll be more eye-catching. As for me, I think I'll just be on the side. I'm an old guy after all. Jeffrey and Winnie, you two can be on the other side. You're about the same age and look like a sweet couple." "Who looks like a couple with her?" Jeffrey crossed his long, trim legs and interrupted Terry. "How can you say that? She's about 12 years older than I am." Winnie was speechless. Why was he being such a jerk? How could he say that? Why didn't he say that when he was pursuing her? He said the two of them were the perfect match, at least visually, if not temperamentally. Men are such liars. "Yes, he's younger than I am," Winnie added. "I look like his elder sister from any angle." "Any angle?" Jeffrey laughed mockingly. "Which angle exactly?" Sean rubbed his temples. He was losing his patience with those two and wanted to kick them out of the room. "Do you two have a problem with that arrangement? If you do, don't walk with us." Jeffrey rested his chin on his right palm and said, "I'm fine with it. I just don't like the way Terry described us." "There's an issue between Director Jeffrey and me," Winnie said meekly. "Perhaps it would be better if I stood next to Director Terry." If she walked all the red carpets together with Jeffrey, she was sure her hair would turn gray because of how angry she would be. "Why do you want to stand with an old man?" Terry laughed. Nodding, Sean said, "Yeah, you're too young to stand with him. Don't worry, Jeffrey knows how to behave himself on important occasions." So this is it. There are a few red carpets that we need to walk separately. We'll be walking in groups, Leonard with Jennifer, Ben with Zachary, Jeffrey and... you'll walk with Winnie since you two are the youngest. Winnie wanted to die. Jeffrey also wore a sullen face and also seemed unhappy with the situation. "Since we've made the arrangements, now let's rehearse a little." Sean clapped his hands and said, "Find your positions and be close to the ones on your sides." Winnie stood up and helplessly walked to Jeffrey's side. After struggling for quite a bit, she put her hand on his arm. Jeffrey put his hand on Winnie's waist perfunctorily. He hadn't held her this way in such a long time. She felt so awkward that her body grew stiff. About 10 seconds later, he bent slightly and whispered in her ear, "Your waist has grown thick since you had the baby." Winnie turned to look at his super handsome face. She couldn't help but stomp her heel on his foot. "Ouch!" he shouted. "Winnie, why did you step on my foot?" It appeared he was exaggerating things to get attention and make her look bad. The others immediately turned to the two of them. Winnie's cheeks reddened with shame. She wanted to tear his mouth open. "Jeffrey, are you bothered again?" Ben furrowed his brows and said to Sean, "Director Woods, maybe I should switch places with Director Jeffrey. I don't mind standing on the side." "You're the leading actor. You have a lot of fans. How can you stand on the side?" Sean shook his head impatiently, his jaw firmly set. He had it. Then he gave Jeffrey and Winnie a harsh glare and said, "You two, enough. If you can't behave yourselves, you'll be on the next flight home." Winnie fell silent. Standing beside her, Jeffrey curved his lips in a perky smile. The rehearsal lasted about 20 minutes. Sean went over all the details again and promptly ended the meeting. Winnie walked out of the room, and Ben ran ahead to catch up with her. In a low voice, he said, "What's going on between you and Jeffrey? Why is he giving you such a hard time? Weren't you guys—" He didn't finish his words. He was once so jealous of Jeffrey. However, after realizing that he couldn't make Winnie happy, he had sincerely wished her to have a good life with Jeffrey. But now, her relationship with him seems to have ended badly. Winnie rubbed her temples and said, "We were together, but we weren't a good match, and it didn't work out." "Was it because that time some reporters took photographs of you and me together?" asked Ben after a long pause. With a pained expression, he continued, "I didn't know my manager told you not to tell. You didn't tell Jeffrey, though, did you? That's why he misunderstood you." "It's not like that." Winnie didn't want him to think that way. She shook her head and said, "It's because of our personalities. We were both immature." "That's true." Ben's deep voice was full of pity. "If that thing hadn't happened, he would have undoubtedly gathered his courage and pursued her again. I still think that if it was because of me, I could explain to him what happened that night. Don't reopen your wounds again, said Winnie with a sigh. Winnie, Ben said to her with hesitation, when we were at the restaurant, you chose not to sit with me, apart from not wanting the reporters to take any photos of us. Was it because you felt that I'm disgusting? Winnie was shocked. Then, with a frown, she answered him, That's absurd. Don't say that. I just came back to work. I want people to see my abilities, not my scandals. Oh, okay. Ben was relieved. Looking at her, he finally broke into a beautiful smile. Watching the two of them, Jeffrey felt as if his eyes were aching. Seeing this and sensing trouble, Sean dragged him away and discreetly reminded him in a low voice, Don't. As people say, breaking up with someone might reveal one's true moral quality. Do I have any moral qualities? Why don't I know about that? Moral quality is bullshit, Jeffrey sneered. As he prepared to rush to Winnie, Jennifer suddenly called out, Winnie, do you have any facial mask? I left home in a hurry and forgot to bring mine. The two girls left. Jeffrey stopped walking, turned, and said to Sean, You're right. I can't be too awful. Sean didn't know what to say. He stood there, scratching the back of his head in bewilderment. The next day, Winnie woke up to find herself on the headline of the entertainment news. Such shocking news rarely happens during a film festival. People were expecting to read a story about her and Ben. But unexpectedly, what happened between her and Jeffrey was dug out. So in no time, she was in the headlines. Winnie was prepared for that, but she wasn't expecting herself to make such shocking news when she came back to work. She read the news on her phone. The reporters had taken a lot of pictures of her and Jeffrey in the water, close to each other. The more pictures she saw, the more embarrassed she felt. In one picture, Jeffrey was holding her tightly. Back then, he was pulling her out of the water. What made her uncomfortable were the headlines of those articles. Winnie and Jeffrey bathed together in the Venice Sea. Winnie held Jeffrey wet. Jennifer called Jeffrey super hot. Winnie didn't want to read the articles about herself, so she read the ones about Jeffrey and Jennifer. Last night, some reporters were close enough to hear Jennifer say that Jeffrey was hotter than Richard. That was reported as well. She could imagine how unhappy Richard might be to read that news. These headlines are so disgusting, Bob complained while looking at his phone. Miss Tara spent half an hour scolding me. What did she say? Winnie asked. Bob sighed. She said you're so attractive that if she had known about this, she'd have asked the spender for a swimsuit. Winnie didn't know what to say. Stop thinking about it. It's already on the news. You couldn't stop them anyway, Bob comforted her. Thankfully, the reporters made these pictures look like wedding pictures. Winnie honestly didn't know what to say. All right, go for breakfast, then come back for makeup. She needed to wear a full dress for the red carpet in the afternoon, so she didn't eat too much. After all, last night Jeffrey had told her her waist had grown thick. She needed to watch her weight. The whole world was paying attention to that ceremony. The makeup artist did a careful job and spent 4 entire hours. By 2 p.m., the fairies arranged by the organizers had already arrived at the hotel entrance. Winnie got a call from Peril when she came out of the hotel in a long black V-neck dress. Winnie, what's going on? I woke up to find you and a strange man in the headlines. Who is that? Why did you fall into the water? Your father was so upset reading about it. Mom, it was too crowded last night. Some crazy fans accidentally pushed me into the water. Why did the news say that he pulled you into the water? Peril asked with a frown. Is there a personal issue between you two? No, don't believe the news, Winnie denied. Good then, but you're a girl. Letting a man hold you in the water is not appropriate, Peril warned her. He's handsome, but you need to restrain yourself. Mom! Winnie felt a little embarrassed. At that very moment, she saw Jeffrey from the corner of her eyes, coming out of the hotel in a dark red velvet suit, wearing a black bow tie. You always let yourself be fooled by handsome boys. I'm worried about you, Peril complained. That's not true. Now think that the inner quality of men is more important than appearance. When Winnie said that, Jeffrey walked up to her. On hearing what she said, Jeffrey stopped walking, looked at her, and said in a deep, slightly dry voice, Are you sure you have a good taste now? Winnie stayed silent. Who's talking to you? Is that Ben? Peril asked her. Mom, I'll talk to you later, Winnie hurriedly ended the call. So you've already made peace with your family? Jeffrey figured it out. She told the world that she went to Germany to study, but in fact, she probably went home to have the baby. With a sarcastic smile, he said to her, Do your parents know you've had a baby? Weren't they super angry seeing you come home with a pregnant belly? Winnie bit her lip, glared at him, and said, How many times do I have to tell you that I've broken up with him? This is really none of your business. I'm just feeling sorry for your parents. After all, girls like you, who make their parents so worried, are rarely seen in the world. Jeffrey snorted coldly, then hopped onto the boat. Winnie took a deep breath. Then, with Bob's help, she got onto the boat as well. She was wearing a dress and heels. It was hard for her to move on the boat, so she sat down right by the tail of the boat, keeping a distance from Jeffrey. Before long, the other crew members had all arrived. The boat started moving. Jennifer, who was sitting beside Winnie, had been talking on the phone the whole time. The reporters made it up. How can you believe that? Huh. The reporters have also taken pictures of you drooling over him. Richard was really upset. Look at yourself. Your eyes are almost popping out. Are you not satisfied with my body shape? Didn't you say that I'm not fat and that's good? Didn't you say that having no muscles isn't a problem at all? Didn't you say that I don't need to keep fit and only maintain a healthy diet and focus on making money? Do you consider yourself unlucky to be with me? His voice grew louder and louder. Jennifer cupped a hand on her phone, then lowered her voice and said, I said that to maintain the impression that I've created. If I didn't say that, people would find me not like the person they believed I am. Yeah, keep finding excuses. Have you tried to create an impression? Are you always like this? Isn't this your nature? Said Richard grumpily. I'm telling you, Jennifer, I am mad now. Aaron laughed at me in the morning. I'm done talking to you. The more I say, the angrier I become. I've spoiled you, so you better not create some other scandal in Italy. Dropping her phone, Jennifer rubbed her temples. Leonard laughed. Huh, Mr. Richards upset, isn't he? You shouldn't have said something like that last night. Jeffrey, don't you think you need to take responsibility for it? Maybe you should explain it a little? After hearing that, Jeffrey turned and said blandly, Maybe I should text Mr. Richard and tell him that I am in better shape than he is. He doesn't need to be upset about it. That's a good idea, Jennifer nodded. People laughed. Jeffrey, your voice is a bit hoarse, Terry said. Did you catch a cold? Winnie slightly turned her head when she heard that. She then heard Jeffrey's voice mixing with the sea wind. My voice isn't feeling well. During the past few days, Terry had mostly figured out what was happening between Jeffrey and Winnie. You pushed him into the water and got him sick, someone said to Winnie jokingly. Don't you have to take responsibility for that? Winnie, you fell into the water last night too. How are you feeling today? Ben asked her with concern. I'm fine. I'm strong and healthy, Winnie said on purpose. Jeffrey laughed. You came back wearing Director Woods' coat. Of course you're stronger and healthier than I am. After all, I came back half naked. Winnie didn't know what to say. Ahem, Sean coughed and said, I'm sorry, I should have given my jacket to you. Jeffrey didn't know what to say. Winnie tittered. She suddenly found that Director Woods could be sharp-tongued too. Have you had any medicine yet? There are still a few more days to go. You don't want to get worse, offered Jennifer. I didn't have the time to get the medicine. Jeffrey closed his eyes for a second and then continued saying, I guess someone thinks she's not responsible for this at all. Since he had said that, Winnie had no choice but to answer him. I'll ask my assistant to get medicine for you. What symptoms do you have? Jeffrey turned, glanced at her, and said, Guess. Winnie stayed silent. His brain's probably damaged, she thought. Jennifer laughed. Jeffrey, stand up. I want to kick you into the water and let the fish eat you. Why was the young man getting more and more difficult? People chuckled. The atmosphere was nice. Getting off the boat, everyone sensed a strong film festival vibe. Fans from all over the world were surrounding the venue. They weren't the only film crew from the States, but among all, Ben and Jennifer were the most popular stars, and they had the most fans. They walked further into the venue, but Bob and the other staff weren't allowed in. It was really inconvenient for Winnie to move into the full-length gown that she was wearing. With no other choice, she lifted the hemline of the gown and walked into the venue in heels. Both sides of the red carpet were crowded with reporters. There was a female star standing in front of Winnie and her crew members wearing a full lace dress. As she walked onto the stairs, she turned back to wave at people. A few guys from Winnie's crew gawked at her. Terry sighed. Damn, that woman didn't even wear a new bra. She has pretty breasts, though. Winnie looked at the woman and blushed. She was so entranced that she stepped on her gown and caused herself to fall toward the carpet. Before her head hit the carpet, she told herself that she was doomed. After falling into the water, she would be in the headlines again for falling on the red carpet. Thankfully, Jeffrey reached out an arm and swiftly pulled her back up. At that very moment, Jeffrey saw down her neckline. She was wearing a new bra, but still, what he saw made him feel thirsty. Her breasts weren't so full back when they had been together. They had probably grown a cup bigger after she gave birth to her child. For some reason, Jeffrey was suddenly jealous of the child who was breastfed by her. He also wanted to kill the man who made her pregnant. Thank you. Winnie held his arm, steadied herself, then thanked him. However, she then raised her head to look into his angry eyes. Her heart leaped. Thankfully, Jeffrey restrained his anger and said, You're already in the headlines for falling into the water. Do you want that to happen again? No, said Winnie with red cheeks. I was looking at that woman. Jeffrey followed her eyes and saw the woman. He sneered and said, I'm surprised that you can even be attracted to that kind of woman. Why were you looking at her? She looks disgusting. Winnie was surprised to hear that. She couldn't help but say to him, You're right. She's not as young as Ella is. Jeffrey's throat was already sore. On hearing what Winnie said, he felt as if he had been parched. That is right, he said to her. You're not as pretty as Ella either. Jeffrey, get away from me. Winnie was so angry that she was trembling. Her eyes turned red. If they weren't on the red carpet, she would have kicked Jeffrey off the stairs. Jeffrey was stunned to find Winnie's eyes red. For some reason, he liked it when she couldn't help but scold him. I don't know how to get away, he said. Maybe you can show me how. Winnie didn't say a word. She was really failing to control herself. She couldn't kick him, so she stepped on his foot really hard with her heels. Her heels were hiding under her dress so no one could see her movement, and her 10-centimeter high heels would certainly give him pain. Sean moved forward, then found the two starting a fight on the red carpet. He was so angry. You guys can fight as long as you want when we get back to the hotel, but not here, he said through clenched teeth. We weren't fighting. Jeffrey endured the pain, then pulled his foot out from under Winnie's heel. He found a dent on his shoe. No wonder people said that women could be horrible when they decided to be mean. Winnie didn't look at him but gave him a sweet smile, held his arm, and waved at the surrounding reporters while walking. With every step, Jeffrey felt as if his big toe was breaking. It took them a very long 10 minutes to walk through the red carpet. Winnie let go of Jeffrey's arm once they walked into the building. Right after that, a tall and slim woman in a red dress walked up to Jeffrey, quickly gave him a huge hug, and said, "Jeffrey, you're finally here. I've been expecting you." Jeffrey's toe was aching, so he failed to steady himself. As the woman pounced on him, he had to shamble backward a few steps before he found a foothold. "Sandra, what's your problem?" he complained. "Come on, let me give you a kiss." Sandra kissed him on the cheek. Jeffrey hurriedly pushed her away, wiped his cheek, glared at her, and said, "What are you doing?" "It's because you look so gorgeous today," slurred Sandra jokingly as she narrowed her eyes. Winnie, who was standing near Jeffrey, immediately recognized the woman. She was the one who returned to the hotel with Jeffrey on the first night they arrived in Venice. They looked rather close to each other. Since they had met up the first night the crew arrived, their relationship must be unusual. There might be a story between them. After all, he slept with Ella and lied to Winnie. She wouldn't be surprised to know that he had slept with some other women too. However, with that thought, she felt as if someone was piercing her heart with a needle, making it feel hard to breathe. She walked to the side to get herself some juice. "Jeffrey, this is..." Jennifer glanced at Winnie's back, then asked Jeffrey with concern. "Sandra," Sean answered her question. With a smile, he shook hands with Sandra and said, "She's been playing a leading role in a recent hotshot American TV show. Last year, she started making Hollywood movies. She is very capable." "I'm surprised that you know me, Director Woods." Sandra smiled. "I used to work with Jeffrey. We're good friends now. It's so nice to be here in Venice with you guys." "We were going to a bar tonight and Jeffrey's going too. Sandra, you're welcome to join us if you have the time. It'll be fun." Sean invited the girl smilingly. "Sure, I'm best at hanging out in bars." Sandra raised her eyebrows and narrowed her eyes. 10 seconds later, Jennifer dragged Sean to a corner and said, "What were you thinking? The entire crew knows that there's an issue between Winnie and Jeffrey. Yet you invited her to hang out with us? Do you want more trouble?" Sean gave a meaningful smile and said, "You're right. I do feel the trouble isn't too bad yet. It's like cooking, you know. If you don't turn up the fire a little, the food will never be ready." "Old fox." Jennifer was enlightened. "What if you overcook the food?" "That'll be their problem. Perhaps they weren't meant to be together," said Sean. Jennifer found his words were starting to make sense. "Don't worry about them. Worry about yourself," Sean laughed. "Richard is really upset." Jennifer narrowed her eyes, smiled, and said, "He is easy." Jeffrey finally made some time to go to the bathroom. He took off his shoe to check his foot. There was a bruise on the back of his foot, and the skin was broken. What an evil woman. Jeffrey angrily took a picture of his foot with his phone, then went out of the bathroom to look for Winnie. Winnie was chatting with a European male star. Jeffrey didn't know what they were talking about, but he could see her chuckling happily. "She attracts all kinds of guys every day," he thought. With a smile, he walked up to her and said, "Winnie, aren't you into girls? Have you changed?" Winnie froze. The European male star opened his mouth wide with surprise and said, "Oh my God, are you into girls?" "No, Let's go. I want to introduce one of my female friends to you." Jeffrey dragged her toward the side. Winnie struggled but failed to free herself from him. She was infuriated. So she bent over and bit the back of his hand. Jeffrey retracted his hand in pain, glared at her, and asked, "Are you a dog?" "You're a dog, a crazy dog," Winnie said. She was a nice and mild person, but now, because of Jeffrey, she was becoming more and more short-tempered. "I was talking to someone," she said. "Why did you make him think that I'm a lesbian? People might say things about me behind my back." "You're overthinking. Homosexual marriages are legal in many countries," said Jeffrey coldly. "Besides, you're a parent now. How can you laugh so happily with another man?" The father of your child is on the scene. Can't you discipline yourself? The last few sentences he said made Winnie's heart skip a beat, but she realized that he was probably talking about Ben. Is Venice your home? Why do you care so much? If you have so much time, go and discipline that pretty girl who kissed you just now. You think I care about you? Jeffrey showed her the picture on his phone. Look at this. Look at what you've done to my foot. I've really learned what kind of person you are after we broke up. Winnie stayed silent. That was exactly what she wanted to say to him. She took his phone and saw his injured foot in the picture. She felt speechless. Was it really necessary for him to take a picture of his slightly injured foot? She thought about it and then realized she did stomp on his foot pretty hard earlier. She hesitated a short while, knowing that he was there to give her trouble deliberately. She opened her wallet, took out a stack of cash, handed it to him and said, "The medicine fee?" Jeffrey didn't respond. As he stayed silent, Winnie added with, "Too much? All right, I'll hurt your other foot." I'm impressed. Jeffrey clenched his teeth and turned around. After taking a step, he turned back and took away all the money in her hand. Winnie saw him putting the cash into his trousers pocket. She really wanted to kick him to death. He was a psychopath. He was so nice and sweet when he was her boyfriend. But after they broke up, he became such a pain in the ass. Jeffrey walked to the corner, then dropped his head to look at his hand, which had been bitten by Winnie. April called him. Jeffrey, how could you drag Winnie into the sea? Why are you two always acting like enemies? From Rosewood City to Venice, you fought all the time. Do you intend to make your problem international news? Jeffrey wasn't surprised. It had become such shocking news. April would certainly know. What did Winnie tell you? He asked. She said she got drunk and pushed you into the sea because you killed her in the game. How could you do that? You guys are schoolmates. You should unite, right? I don't think so, said Jeffrey blandly. She pushed me into the water, and then I dragged her down. Wasn't that fair? Don't worry about it. After saying that, he ended the call. Having a little brother who never listens can really give you a headache sometimes, April said to Aaron, who was having breakfast. Aaron was reading the news while eating. He had to admit that Jeffrey impressed him. They had broken up, yet he had held her so tightly in the water. Darling, have you found that the two of them actually look like a sweet couple? Aaron showed April the picture. April glanced at the picture and said, yeah. But if Winnie became Jeffrey's wife, she might become infuriated every single day. I don't think they can be together. Aaron stayed silent. At that moment, Apple suddenly grasped his bowl and screamed out loud. Shut up, bad boy. Aaron found that the older his son became, the less adorable he was. Haven't you had enough yet? April hurriedly stood up and looked at the empty baby bowl. Apple, you've already had a bowl of porridge. You can't eat too much. Apple twisted his chubby body and screamed, Candy, candy, candy. He called everything edible candy. April had no choice but to fetch him another bowl of porridge. Apple fed himself with the baby spoon. His entire mouth was covered in porridge. Aaron buried his face in his palms and said, Why does my son have such a great appetite? He's so much like his mother. His stomach is like a black hole. April didn't know what to say. Ever since Apple grew old enough to eat food other than breast milk, the boy had been eating everything. His weight was rising rapidly, and that made April really worried. Venice. The opening ceremony started at 8 p.m. and ended at 10:30 p.m. At the end of the ceremony, that was when the nightlife in Venice really began. Back in the hotel, Winnie changed, then saw Terry's message in the group chat. He wanted people to meet in the lobby. She was quite tired, but she hated to disappoint her friends. She decided to have some coffee and walk downstairs. All the crew members were there. Some friends of Director Woods were also invited. On their way to the bar, Jeffrey coughed from time to time. You weren't coughing earlier today, said Jennifer. Why is it getting worse? Jeffrey answered blandly. From the corner of his eye, he saw Winnie, who was about a meter away from him. I started coughing earlier at the opening ceremony. I think it has gotten worse. Winnie, didn't you send your assistant to get medicine? Where's the medicine? Terry asked. Winnie felt embarrassed. She did want to send Bob to buy medicine for Jeffrey earlier, but since Jeffrey made her so angry in the afternoon, she later told Bob not to go. Yeah, where's my medicine? Jeffrey asked. Winnie glared at him. Wasn't the money enough? Did he really want her to buy him the medicine? You guys keep moving. Sandra glanced at the two of them, then said to the others, I left something in the hotel. I'll meet you at the bar later. Be careful, Sean said to her. Then Sandra left. When they arrived at the bar, Sandra caught up with them and threw a box of pills at Jeffrey. Whoa, so Sandra went to get some medicine for our director, someone exclaimed. Without feeling shy at all, Sandra proudly raised her chin. He wouldn't let me if I offered to go to the pharmacy to get the medicine for him, so I lied. Just take the pills. There are some anti-inflammatory pills and cough pills. Jeffrey furrowed his brows and glanced at the girl who had been looking at her phone with her back to him. Somehow, he felt irritated. They had broken up indeed, but she should care a little more about him, shouldn't she? She was acting like his illness had nothing to do with her at all. What a heartless woman. Just accept Sandra's kindness and take the pills, Sean said to him. Be nice to yourself. After all, we have some important work to do in the next few days. Jennifer reminded him, saying, You can't drink alcohol when you're on pills, so don't drink. If you want to drink, wait until the alcohol is gone from your system and then take the pills. Jeffrey stopped short. He didn't like drinking alcohol, but it was impossible for him not to drink tonight, as so many people were there. I'll take them tonight, he decided. He put the pills in his pocket. Don't drink too much tonight, Sean said to him. The bar was located by the seaside. It was considered the fanciest among all the bars in Venice. The place was luxurious and tastefully decorated with retro-style lights and leather couches. Expensive bottles of wine were placed by the walls on both sides, and in the middle, there was a place for drums and singing. The place wasn't as noisy as some of the clubs in America. Sitting there, looking outside the window at the sea, one could relax and be submerged in the scenery. Winnie threw herself onto the couch. Jeffrey and Sandra were sitting diagonally in front of her. Sandra was sitting very closely to Jeffrey. She talked to him from time to time, then laughed out loud. She had never talked to Sandra before, but she could tell that Sandra was passionate and outgoing. Unlike her, Winnie was like a snail shrinking in its shell. She envied people like that. For some reason, she was so down at the moment. She broke up with Jeffrey for many reasons, but she had to admit that in the eyes of the other girls, he was still a very attractive man. He was young, handsome, rich, and talented. She wanted to give him best wishes, but still, she couldn't bear watching him being with another girl. She turned away, picked up a glass, and took a sip of what was in it. She didn't find it was alcohol until she swallowed it. It burned her stomach. Winnie, you're good at drinking. I saw you take a gulp, Ben said to her in a soft voice. No, I thought it was juice. Winnie put the glass down. She had to be extra careful now. She didn't dare let herself get drunk again. I'll ask someone to get you a cup of warm water. Ben stood up to find the waiter. Jeffrey was talking to Sandra, but his eyes never left Winnie and Ben. He hated seeing Ben be nice to Winnie. At that very moment, Aaron called him. He walked to the balcony to answer the call. What do you want? He asked. Just sending regards from your brother-in-law? Aaron sounded delighted. I guess you're quite unhappy now. Jeffrey clenched his teeth. Aaron sounded quite glad knowing that Jeffrey was unhappy. I can't believe you actually pulled her into the water. Oh, I guess you're really trying your best to catch her attention. Aaron laughed. That's not true. Jeffrey rubbed his temples. Don't lie to me. I've been there, Aaron said. I called you because I want to teach you a few things. Jeffrey stayed silent. He didn't want to believe Aaron. I tried to get her attention because I wanted to make her feel bad, he said. He didn't want to be with her. She had a baby with some other guy already. He would never forgive her for that. He couldn't possibly pretend like it never happened. However, he couldn't forget about her either. He didn't want to become a stranger to her. He had never struggled so much. I hate her. He leaned against the guardrail, letting out the 3 words. Well, he's really damaged, Aaron thought. He even used the word hate. He thought he loved her, but where could the hatred come from? It's good, Aaron agreed with Jeffrey. Since you hate her, you have to constantly try to make her feel bad. Only when she's unhappy can you be happy. That's the only way. Jeffrey didn't know what to say. He knew Aaron couldn't possibly give him good advice. Aaron continued by saying, You have to show up before her every single day. She'll collapse sooner or later. You have to make her lose her mind and slap you in the face. When she does that, kiss her aggressively, and after that kiss, you can tell her that you hate her. She'll definitely fall for you. Is that how you treated my sister before? Of course not, said Aaron blandly. They're rebroadcasting the TV show where this happens. Your sister watched it and said it's great. She said the boys in the drama are so hot and decent. I tried to talk her out of watching something so tedious, but she refused to listen. She's as tasteless as Winnie is. And that's why the 2 of them are best friends. I think they both like being treated by boys in that way. In a relationship, you can either die in silence or explode in silence. It depends on what you choose. Bye, Jeffrey said. Wait, the most important thing, be shameless. Jeffrey ended the call directly. He felt that Aaron could become a screenwriter and create quite a cliché romantic drama. He walked back into the bar and saw Winnie and Ben talking to each other quietly. Suddenly, he felt that something Aaron said was right. He couldn't tear them apart, but he could discuss them. He picked up a bottle of wine and quickly walked toward the microphone. He's not going to sing a song, is he? Sean gave a start. Why on earth does he want to do that? Jennifer wanted to leave. Before, while the crew was producing the film, the crew members used to go to karaoke together. As everybody knew, Jeffrey was handsome and his voice was beautiful, but he was terrible at singing. It didn't matter if he sang in a VIP room with his friends, but singing in such a public place could be rather embarrassing. Winnie noticed what he was doing and her mouth corners twitched. Who gave him the confidence? When the song titled My Boyfriend is Gay showed up on the screen, Winnie choked on a mouthful of water. She was stunned. As a singer, she listened to many songs written in other languages. She knew the song My Boyfriend is Gay quite well. It was sung by the female singer Haley Rowe. The song told a story about a girl buying her boyfriend a birthday gift, but in the end, she found out that her boyfriend was gay. He was with another boy. Haley Rowe had a sweet and silvery voice. The song could not be sung by a man. What on earth had happened to Jeffrey? Many other people in the bar had seen the title of the song and started whistling and screaming. The atmosphere was instantly boosted. Jennifer covered her ears and turned to Winnie and said, Winnie, can you please get on the stage? I'll lose my interest in music if I hear him sing that song. Winnie's mouth corners twitched. Sean hurriedly plugged his ears with tissues. Even Ben, who sat beside him, started preparing to plug his ears as well. Winnie was still hesitating when Jeffrey started singing. The beautiful song became extremely weird and unpleasant to the ears when it came out of his mouth. Waves of shushing were heard from the bar. Sandra was the first to spring from the chair and started to wave a wine bottle. At that point, many in the bar were already drunk. Seeing what Sandra was doing, they stood up as well and started to dance with excitement. The atmosphere warmed up. Jeffrey finished the first song, then started singing Burning without showing any sign of stopping. Winnie, just get on the stage. Let these foreigners know how amazing an American female singer can be. Sean started urging Winnie. Yeah, we can't be more damaged by that horrible singing of his, Jennifer agreed. As Winnie was still hesitating, Jennifer held her wrist and stood up. At that moment, Sandra hurriedly walked onto the stage, picked up a free guitar, and started playing. Winnie could tell that she was pretty good at playing guitar. Standing on the stage together, she and Jeffrey looked like a perfect couple. One of them was cold while the other was passionate. Winnie stopped moving. It would be quite awkward if she went onto the stage at that moment. She stared at the stage, looking at the two. She felt as if it was hard to breathe, as if there were a pile of rocks in her heart. She thought she was over him for a long time and felt she was disappointed in the person who hurt her with such awful language. However, she was still sad when she saw him being so close to another girl. "Winnie?" Jennifer looked at her with concern. "I shouldn't interrupt them. Isn't the atmosphere perfect now?" Winnie pulled her hand out of Jennifer's hand and then went to the balcony, sitting down to rest. Ben stood up and followed behind her. However, a foreign actor caught him on the way and started a conversation with him. Winnie spent a short while sitting behind the bar counter outside. Guys always wanted to talk to her, so in the end, she hid behind the fish tank to get some rest. A waiter put a cocktail on the table before her. She took a few sips and heard Sandra's voice coming from behind the fish tank. "Jeffrey, I'm fond of you. I really, really like you." She paused briefly with surprise. Then through the fish tank, she saw the two of them holding each other. She felt as if her eyes were burning. She hurriedly turned away. Her brain was blank for a moment. In a panic, she picked up the cocktail and took a few gulps. "I'm sorry, you're not even a woman in my eyes." Jeffrey's cold voice was heard. "I know. That's why I told you I like you. From this day on, you can start seeing me as a woman," said Sandra with a smile. "I'll be pursuing you." "I'm into boys. I'm gay. Leave me alone." Jeffrey turned and walked away. "Jeffrey, I don't care if you're into boys or girls. You will be mine." Sandra caught up to him. After watching the two of them leave, Winnie slowly came out from behind the fish tank. Sandra was into Jeffrey. She had that figured out a long time ago. However, she was so nervous to hear Sandra tell that to Jeffrey that her heart twitched. She thought Jeffrey would agree to be with Sandra. After all, she was sexy, pretty, generous, and friendly. She was way better than Ella. Perhaps he would be with a perfect girl like her sooner or later. When he turned and walked toward the door, everybody was probably staying until very late. She just wanted some time to herself to cool down.